All right, guys and ladies out there, today I'm going to be going over hopefully a brief video of the possibilities of one Isaiah Simmons from Clemson, the safety linebacker, do it all, play in the nickel, a little bit of the edge rusher from Clemson. Um, I think he's kind of a dream scenario, kind of dream piece to kind of bring together, the Las Vegas Raiders defense. They definitely need a corner. But kind of having that chess piece to, finally eliminate tight ends, to be able to quarterback spy, play a variety of positions. I think Isaiah Simmons is a really nice potential piece. Many people, since he blew up the combine, feel, he's like a top 6, top 7 lock. I think he's definitely deserving of that. However, I would say it's far from a lock. I'll go a little bit brief into that. But first off, let's kind of get into some of the thoughts of the player, and then I'll kind of go into why he might fall all the way to 12 or near 12 enough for the Raiders to trade. So let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, Isaiah Simmons, as you can see on my screen, his measurables. This is from Mock Draft. Look pretty cool. This compared to other linebackers. But as you can see, they're charting. You can see 90, his 40-yard dash is 4.3, his 30, 5-inch plus vertical, his crazy broad jump, his height. Interesting fact about him is he played, high school track star, redshirted his first year at Clemson, and was a track athlete at Clemson. He credits a lot of his, explosiveness and numbers to track. But as you can see, 6'4", 238, which is, fine. He's going to get bigger. 33-inch arms, which is really good. In his zone coverage, that really helps, clogging those passing windows of quarterbacks. 4.39, ridiculous. So just a real good athlete. See if I can show a couple maybe plays here, some brief plays. So watch him, he's going to blow up this. Boom. Watch him coming off the edge, man. Look at that. You can do that. Boom. It's crazy. Watch this is what I'm talking about. Passing window. Get those arms. Boom. He's playing nickel corner right there, man. He played a lot of nickel corner 2 years ago. You can see, I believe, in the Cotton Bowl versus Notre Dame. Makes several great plays. Even fouls Mob, looking up the seam, makes a great pass, stops a third down play. Boom. Real rangy guy. So that's just some of his, but now getting into why he might fall. So first of all, positional value. When you think of linebackers and safeties, they're not as drafted as high as they once was. Maybe that has to do with, more of having passing game, but I think a lot of it has to do with, the increase of penalties and stuff like that. And, not being able as physical. So we're going to go briefly through some of the years. So we'll go with here. Last year, as Devin Bush traded up for similar, freak combine numbers, probably not as good as an athlete or as rare as Isaiah Simmons, but, has been playing the true linebacker position a little bit longer in college. He went 10th. You think about Devin White, went pretty high last year. Let me just Google that. Devin White. 5th or 6th or something. Devin White was the 5th pick. He's rumored to be the Raiders, so that was really high. Super athletic too. So there is a good chance he is drafted super high. I'm just kind of getting into that. But Roquan Smith was like the 8th pick. Luke Kuechly, who was as clean as a linebacker prospect you're ever going to get, true middle linebacker. Pick 9. And then someone from the safety position that they didn't know where he was exactly going to play. Played a lot of sub-package linebackers last year at Florida State, played corner at Florida State, and played safety. Derwin James, Raiders famously passed on him. He's probably the closest prototype of kind of the NFL wanting to do a redo, but he went 17th. So there is a possibility he could be around there. And I'm going to kind of get into that now. So, a lot of it has to do with positional value, but a lot of it also has to do with, who's going where. We know Joe Burrow probably, Chase Young hypothetically, and they get to Detroit, right? They need a corner. Boom. They could go Isaiah Simmons. But they like Derek Brown potentially. Derek Brown's been rumored a lot. Okay. So let's just give them, Jeff Okuda, most people. New York Giants. Everyone seems to be penciling him here, and I think there is a good chance he goes there. Having said that, you look at Dave Gettleman, he's famous to wanting those big hogs on the offensive defensive line. But if you look up through his career, he's never taken an offensive tackle in the first round. The highest was second round. His last year in Carolina, I believe he took Shaq Thompson, the speedy linebacker. So there's actually a little bit more proof of him taking that hybrid linebacker. Not this high in the draft. Shaq Thompson wasn't. Let me look that up real quick. He was drafted. I think this was Dave Gettleman's last year, 25th, so way later. But kind of run chase linebacker, weak side linebacker. That projects. So, that's kind of my thought process here. I see every mock going here. Me personally, I think, offensive tackle is more of a value position than a weak side linebacker, versatile linebacker, safety kind of, especially when you have a quarterback that you need to keep upright that has a major fumbling issue. And then you have Saquon Barkley. You need to start carving up some more holes. So, so that's kind of like, the next clicking point, kind of here. And not a lot of people seem to be thinking of Miami. Miami could be a sneaky option here. Let's just say they're not comfortable with Tua's medicals and, maybe they're not in love with a Herbert. They spent a lot of money on defense, a lot of money at the linebacker. But, how they liked versatile pieces in New England. So, that's a possibility. I'm going to say quarterback, though, or offensive tackle, based on positional value. See, Chargers are another one. They took Derwin James. Their GM's really good at, being a little bit progressive and finding value in players and, flexibility in players. But, I have to think quarterback or offensive tackle for sure. Huge needs, positional rank. Those are a little bit higher. So, one of those two positions. Carolina, next up. This is where I think the Raiders can begin thinking about trade opportunity maybe up. Me and Zenny in a previous video, we were trying to work out a trade. I represent the Carolina, you represent the Raiders. It couldn't get done for various reasons, but I'm going to kind of get into it. So making the case of the possibility of trading up and trading back. Carolina, they have multiple holes. They could sign Isaiah Simmons to take over for Luke Kuechly, but they need a corner and an interior defensive line and possibly, a tackle interior offensive lineman. So, based off of value, interior defensive lineman, offensive tackle, maybe, the next corner, Henderson, they got a lot of wide receivers, you got a guard in there, but really they're in full rebuild mode. All of these are major needs, basically, all these are major needs for sure. And they don't even have the interior offensive line, but interior / tackle, I would say, because it's a team where they're going to play the kid out of Louisville. But they have multiple needs. So I think there's a chance, if they trade back here, they can get one of those, possibly the corner, possibly an offensive tackle, possibly either Derek Brown or a Kinlaw, which would be huge while picking up assets. So now we get into what is it going to cost? So as we look here, this is kind of outdated, I think, and, we could go into previous cases, but, 12-7 is 300 points. So, me and Zenny got into it. He wasn't willing to give up pick 80. I'm telling you right now, in any draft, any trade, if you have multiple picks stacked like this, they're only getting one pick. They're getting the highest pick. So, in my opinion, 2 3s could possibly get it done. Maybe a 3 and a future 3 get it done. And, if it's me, I highly consider it. One of the biggest needs for the Raiders is, probably second-tier need, but, they could get a young safety matchup piece to help, take away and play free safety next to Abram. And then they could use, another linebacker piece kind of and some pass rushing help. He kind of fills all those. And then if you take Isaiah Simmons by trading up, hypothetically, you do lose, let's say we give up 80 and 91. You do lose up some capital or, 80 and a future 3. You do lose some capital, but, you fill kind of 3 secondary needs at once. And then you only have 2 huge needs, which is wide receiver and corner. At 19, let's say hypothetically, you're able to trade back. The only thing is you can't guarantee to trade back. I think, if they're able to trade back, they're able to pick up a second and third. They have a little bit more capital. If they're able to trade a Gabe Jackson, like a pick swap like they did before, Gabe Jackson in the 5th for an early 4, or something, New York Giants, Houston, needs line help. I don't know, something like that. But, kind of my thinking is, if you go get Isaiah Simmons, you knock off a couple things, and it might just cost a 3 this year, a 3 next year. You still have these 2 threes. You get a corner here, you can get 2 receivers, or trade up and get, maybe in this range and get your 1 receiver, or vice versa. Sitting at 19, there's a lot of, in general, a lot of people think a receiver at 12 and at 19 take a corner. I think there's a lot, the corner value kind of really starts if you take them, it doesn't seem like a lot, but, kind of this range and on is where most of those corners I like, the Terrell, the Gladney, the Johnson, all those guys, the Diggs, kind of late-ish one. So if you're able to trade here, get a corner and, pick up another pick, that's key. So that's kind of my thinking there. Carolina, there is a chance, that they want to, trade back, and it wouldn't cost, a whole, crazy amount of equity. There's even a chance they do it just for 1/3, because, they could, like I said, they could get a Kinlaw, maybe an offensive tackle, or, Henderson or someone else that keeps falling, just based how it is. And they have multiple needs, multiple holes. So that's kind of my thinking there, trading up with them. Let's just say they stay put and they end up going, a Derek Brown, for example, or something like that. Okay, now we get to Arizona again. Well, hey, Isaiah Simmons does, potentially fit nice there. They do need a linebacker. But heck, kind of back to, you need an offensive tackle to protect Kyler Murray potentially. I could even see a corner maybe. Isaiah Simmons does fit here pretty nicely. We know that. But I'm just saying there is a possibility. And maybe you could trade back with them, and be a similar deal. But, I just kind of see positional ranking wise with all these elite offensive tackles usually go, elite offensive tackles go ahead over elite flex safety / linebacker. Safety / linebacker are devalued in the NFL kind of out of all defensive positions. And you got a combo guy. Offensive tackle is still arguably one of the most important. And I would say corner is kind of even more important on the tier than a flex piece more per se. But I think Isaiah Simmons is clearly, a higher prospect than CJ Henderson. But, tackle, boom. Jacksonville potentially, they have a bunch of holes. What is it going to cost to move up to 9? I know for sure you could probably get it for 3rd. Here you got to be telling them you're going to get a Kinlaw for sure, or CJ Henderson, or a receiver 100% and pick up a 3rd. So, the Raiders could move up there. Now, I think he is quite a fit here. They've gotten a Telvin Smith who left kind of suddenly, and Miles Jack running chase. But, Saxonville was built off of, having an elite corner, which would, lend me to say maybe they go Henderson over him if they stay. Or, interior defensive line with Curtis Campbell and all those boys at one point. There's possibly even a Browns here, flip-flop something else, but a Kinlaw makes sense. Or even a receiver, potentially. And I'm just talking about the odds of the Raiders being able to trade up, or maybe Isaiah Simmons even fall all the way to 12, which, I wouldn't say odds are in the favor, but I wouldn't say it's as crazy as possible. It wouldn't shock me if Isaiah Simmons, like I said, falls past number 7, 8 around that range. And, a team like the Raiders try to trade up, or someone like, the Raiders are the key team potentially. So then let's just say, their trade back opportunity, like I said, it would only cost them probably just the 3rd. Let's say they just go Kinlaw here, go back to Saxonville. Cleveland, they're trying to trade out. Everyone's hearing trade out. Well, let's say they can't get anything further back. They're all analytical, trying to get multiple picks. Well, hell, the way this ships out, you can either get, one of your offensive tackles, a safety if you really wanted to push it a little bit. Isaiah Simmons fits here a lot too, potentially. Safety, linebacker, one of their needs. But, as I get back to it, you got to protect these young quarterbacks you invest in. So I think offensive tackle makes a lot of sense here. Again, you try to end it. Then you get to a team like the New York Jets. They haven't had an elite outside pass rusher in forever, an edge defender. I just don't know if you want to have Isaiah Simmons play that all the time. Having said that, he does fit a 3-4 outside linebacker role to a T. But once again, tackle. You need a tackle potentially, or a receiver or a corner. All kind of go positionally higher than a typical, chess piece linebacker safety type of player. Like I said, I think Isaiah Simmons could play the 3-4 edge player really well. But Sam Darnold was under fire nonstop. Chuma Ibadoda was one of the players I liked a lot at USC last year, but he's far from polished product. And taking an offensive tackle, you can always play him at guard. Jedrick Wills. There's a possibility they go Jedrick Wills here. Boom. So let's say all that happens, right? And you want to flip-flop some things before, to say, Isaiah Simmons would clearly be there. There's a chance C.J. Henderson, with the corners goes a few picks ahead. One of the receivers, there's a chance definitely goes ahead. Having said that, I think that's about it. Maybe one of the other cornerbacks, a Jordan Love or something. But as you can see here, there's still 3, 4 legit, maybe a quarterback, 4.5, 5 legit options that you can interchange above this, ahead of Isaiah Simmons. So, like I said, I'm not trying to say for sure, count it. Isaiah Simmons will be a Raider. He's going to fall to 8. He's fallen, to 8, and they could trade up for sure, or he might even fall to 12, 100% book it. But I'm saying, it's a lot closer than everyone puts him a shoe-in at the Giants at 4. I just don't see that being 100% shoe-in. I would say that's more of 60-40, in my opinion, than Uncle Isaiah Simmons. And it just comes from the belief, like I said, offensive tackle, you got to protect your quarterback, positional value, offensive tackles higher. There's about 3 or 4, really good offensive tackles in this class. So that's what kind of makes sense to me. And, I think the key point is if they trade up to get Isaiah Simmons, they're going to be trying everything possible to probably try to trade back here and get, a second, third, repile the third round. So, because if you get Isaiah Simmons, really you only have 2 major needs, wide receiver and corner. So, as we know, it's a deep wide receiver class. So I would think, ideally, they're trying to trade back at 19, try to take a corner. Or, if they have to, take a corner at 19 if they can't trade back, and then, package 2 3s or Gabe Jackson in a 3 and try to move up, late, mid-2 and try to get that receiver. But I was just trying to keep it short and sweet, guys. I'm going to be trying to pump out a little bit more videos, maybe some more mock draft similars before the draft. I'm real excited. You can follow me at Mason Riggs. Keep giving me questions, but it's going to wrap it up for this little brief video. Thanks a bunch. Bye.